Hi, so my name is Jamie, and today as kind of the second installment or part of the April series I am, or felt prompted to do that focuses on the topic of sex. I want to talk about character in romantic relationships, and really the principles I'll be discussing are obviously very transferable and aren't applicable solely to romantic relationships or marriage relationships, etc. But it's something that I just feel 100% that God would want me to talk about. This idea of character and I really just believe he wants me to share part of my story, which is kind of interesting. It's not really a part I share often. Most people don't know this part of my journey, so but I'm going to be sharing a bit about it, and yeah, I just feel prompted to share. Okay, alright, yeah, so I'll just go ahead and listen to the Lord. When I was, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe like 25. I'm 34 now, so I'd say maybe about 25, maybe 26, not sure, 27. In my late 20s, I was still in an abusive home. So abuse was a part of my life for that long. But I was also on staff at a church during that time. And I was enjoying my work there. I was learning how to trust in God. I was learning how to, that He was dependable, that He wasn't like, people in my life who were abusive, etc. And I loved that job so much. But God told me one day, this is, while I was just kind of learning to trust Him, and I got to the point where I really did, but He told me one day to leave it. He told me to quit my job and to move out of my home where I was living, where I was being abused. I had just kind of been taught at that time, I think, that, I was supposed to, maybe endure suffering, etc. And so I didn't really think that I was, called to leave, the abusive situation. I then found out that the people I was living with were stealing from me, and at that point I knew that that wasn't right, and I trusted God when He told me to leave. But I really left everything. Like, I left my job that I had. That was a great job. I loved my coworkers. And then I also, I left the place I was living. I moved somewhere else on my own. And I didn't, thinking about it, brings joy to me, I think, that, well, it does, brings joy to me, but, yeah, I just trusted Him, and I remember talking to my boss and giving him 2 weeks notice, and of course he didn't want me to leave, and we were just going to talk about it, and I was like, no, I really believe God's telling me. And then I ended up staying, I think, a week and a half, and I remember calling him being like, look, God does not want me to come in. And he's just like, what? Then he's like, okay. And I just felt like he kind of agreed with me, like he knew also that, this was somehow God doing it. And so, yeah, I ended up finding a job in retail. I didn't know why I was being, moved over to retail, but I took a job in retail. I went to a completely different church. I no longer went to the church I was working at. I started getting involved with just different people. I started to go to Bible college. I didn't have a car at this time either, so I was walking or taking the bus. I got to Bible college and to work and to church and to everything. And then I ended up getting 2 more part-time jobs. So I was working 3 jobs, going to Bible college. At the church I was now at that time attending, but it had been a change for me. I was serving, I was doing intercessory prayer, I was leading in an evangelistic training ministry where I would teach people how to share the gospel, and I was teaching apologetics and missionary biographies as a trainer there. and I was just having a great time. I was having such a good time. There were times where, I mean, I was, alone, separating myself from, just abusive people and relationships. And I think it was probably me just feeling kind of free for the first time in my life, just apart from people who were kind of holding me down or, exploiting me or kind of just wanting to use me for their own gain. And, there were times where I would walk home late at night, like 3 miles, like 10 at night, 10 or 11 at night, walking home, scared sometimes because I didn't know, what would happen, but I just remember praying. I remember sensing angels with me. And although it was a somewhat hard time in my life, it was such a blessed time to just be doing things on my own and taking care of myself. It was a really wonderful, wonderful time. And then I remember I stopped wanting to work in retail. Like, I remember I started to hate it, and I was just like, man, Lord, like, never ever put me in retail again. Like, please, like, that became a prayer of mine. And I wanted to work in a call center. How God uses His desires in our hearts and changes them and leads us in that way. And then, I got a job at a call center, which was fantastic, and I was making a lot more, and I was carpooling with the family that I was living with, which is the Marstons, who I love. And I believe that I'm being prompted to share this because I believe God wants women to know that we can do it on our own, that we don't need like a man necessarily to take care of us. I think He wants to encourage women in this way because I believe that men are more or less taught this as they grow up, right? Like, they're taught you're going to be a provider, you're going to be a father, you need to have, financial security, you need all of these things, you need to be able to take care of your family, etc. Whereas women, I don't believe are as much. I believe that that's changing now, which is fantastic. And I think that is just kind of what I believe God is saying, is that you can do it on your own, and that you should start to, I think is the purpose of my sharing this. I remember some of the characteristics that I had listed here. Financial stability, independence, I think is a really big one. During that time, I was just a super independent person, and by public standards, or society's standards, many people would probably, look at my situation where I've come from, a survivor of sex trafficking, just being abused, abusive home life, I was threatened daily, and so, a lot of people I think would probably think, well, maybe this person needs help, but, I think in just my dependence on God and just listening to Him, and also just a lot of philosophy that I'd read in high school had just instilled within me a work ethic and this idea of independence and integrity that has never, ever left me. And I've just never wanted other people to think that they are obligated to fulfill my personal needs. I've always taken that responsibility upon myself, and I've looked to God when I need help. So even when I was carpooling with the Marstons, we literally went to the same job, and then we lived together. So it wasn't as though it was a difficult a journey, but there were just times where I just never wanted them to feel like they had to take me, or that, if they wanted to go to dinner afterwards without me, they wouldn't have to, take me home and then go. Like, there was just no obligation there. So there were often times where I would just take the bus home, an hour and a half, 2-hour bus ride, as opposed to going with them. I just didn't ever want them. I always wanted there to be a freedom in our relationship. I remember Trish Marston joking once, saying that she has to, they have to strong arm me to have me get in a car with them. And they really, I believe, after, viewing my behavior and realizing I wasn't, out to manipulate or coerce or incite pity or anything from them, I really believe that they respected that in me, and I was able to become a part of their family for that period of time, and it was such an honor and a blessing, and I learned so much from them. And I was able to get a car finally, and then I changed jobs and I started working full-time for another company, and now I'm almost finished with my degree and heading to law school, which after I work as a DA for 1 year, all of my school loans will be forgiven. So I'm not concerned about student loans or anything like that. So I think it's wise to plan for our futures financially and not depend or have, as women, I'm speaking to women specifically here, marriage or, finding a man to be our plan A. I believe that having a sense of independence and financial stability, integrity, faith in God kind of is what brought me here today, and took me out of that abusive relationship, and well, not romantic relationship, but just the abusive relationships that I was in. It just helps form us and be the men and women that God wants us to be. And so, so I think those are good characteristics to have. I really felt God wanted to highlight and encourage people in. If you're thinking you can't do it, you definitely can. Just trust in God, and He's blessed me so much, like beyond anything I, could fathom or imagine in my head. So, okay, and then I also put industry, which is like productivity. I think that is a good characteristic also to have. There's this quote by Albert Einstein, man, what is it? It says something like, the energy that we put out into the world is what's going to come back at us, in a sense. I'll put it in a quote at the bottom of the video and comments if you're interested in it. And then he says, like, this isn't philosophy, it's physics. Like, and then there's the biblical concept of, like, you reap what you sow. And it's so true. Like, the more that we produce, the more value that we create for others in our lives, that we also partake of that. We create the world that we live in. So I think I think that we can do a lot more than we think we can. I think we have tremendous potential. I remember during a course, in a Bible college course that I took, one of the professors talked about the potential that we have as Christians and as being created in God's image. And I just remember him talking about the fact that not everyone reaches their full potential. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, that is so true. Like, we have that decision. Like, and I just remember thinking, I need to reach my full potential. Like, I need to not be that person, who, doesn't, reach their full potential. Like, and I was thinking too of, like, the passage in scripture of, like, like the parables of, where is it the virgins with their oil lamps, I think, and just this idea of being prepared, and then the parable that talks about when God, or not God, but the master, gave the servants, I forget the word, but gave them a specific amount of money, and they were supposed to invest it, like have it grow. And then there was like that one person who was like scared and like didn't want to do anything with it, and so like hid it, man, like I don't want to be that person. Like I want to put out, as much as possible. I'm in various areas, whether it be literature or, law that I'm going into, or teaching or writing or creating, art, friendships, just put out as much as you can. Yeah. Okay. And then creativity, I think, is also another neat characteristic and aspect of ourselves that is healthy and good to explore and build upon. I know I've painted since I was young. I've written poetry since I was really young. Fiction stories. I mean, there's a creative element in everyone, whether it's cooking or dance or singing, screenwriting. I mean, I would just, if you don't have a creative element, say try to explore. There's something there. Okay, and then with integrity, I just wanted to share. It's interesting. I'm going to backtrack before I share, but the past 3 months of sort of journalistic endeavor that I'm doing, I feel like what I've shared has been a lot more academic, like a lot of information that I'm giving out, and this month has been a lot of personal anecdotes, and so it's kind of interesting the way that that's gone, but I'm okay with it. I feel prompted that it's what God wants me to do. So for integrity, I did feel prompted to share this one thing. I think while I was on staff at Calvary Chapel Chino Valley, which is where I used to work, we were given a book to read, like assigned, and it was Principles of Spiritual Leadership, I think, by Oswald Sanders, I think, or Chambers, one of those. He was an Oswald, I'm pretty positive. And there was one of the disciplines, I think, was about moral power. And I just want to talk about that. I want to talk about integrity and moral power. As I've studied literature, I've read, literature from probably like the beginning of time until present, and I've read male authors and female authors, and I've seen what's portrayed and projected, and what's in the minds of people, and what inspires them to create. And one theme I found is where there are men in literature, stories, there's a culture of honor that is portrayed among them. They trust in one another. They, they encourage one another. They really honor one another. And women are often excluded from that culture. Women are often portrayed as separate. They're portrayed usually as more of objects that are to be won within that culture, and as as property, I guess, as we were and are still in some countries. So I want to talk about, specifically to women, because again, I think it's something that men know and are trained to, grow up and internalize in their own lives and in their relationships. But for women specifically, just having an awareness of morality and personal integrity, I think, is important. I have a lot of male friends. I get along with men really, really well. And unfortunately, I've heard that not all women think this way, that not all, just going to be super honest, I guess. I mean, I've heard, before, Jamie, women, the majority of them aren't like you. From what I hear, men perceive women as individuals who are trying to seduce them, who want to get their money, kind of ruthless creatures. And over the past few months, maybe, I believe God's shown me this, firsthand, with regards to women in my life, and things I hadn't seen. And so I just want to say that, for men, to respect you as a woman, your behavior really, it needs to change if you're behaving like that. If you're, trying to seduce a man, a married man, a man with a girlfriend, this is not viewed, especially by Christian men, with favor. They won't be able to interact with you as a friend or even as a coworker, someone who serves alongside you, if you're attempting to break up, their marriage or the relationship they have with their girlfriend, or trying to seduce them, or use, your sexuality to, elicit favors from them. Yeah. So, I mean, I know because of my history, my past of, being sold for sex, etc., didn't always have the proper mindset when it comes to how to interact with men. And I remember, reading this book, The Spiritual Disciplines, and, just starting to pray for moral power. I just started to pray for moral power, and I would pray all the time for it. And I believe 100% that God answered my prayer, and I live my life with a very high standard. Last thing I want to talk about, the last characteristic that I listed was joy, and this is a really important one for me. I think I'm one of the happiest people that I know, and I like it that way. I don't like that I'm one of the happiest people that I know. I mean, I really hope that it's infectious and that other people start to catch on to it, and, want to experience it. But I am super fierce when it comes to defending and creating a space where I can be joyous and I can be happy. That's something that I work for and work towards. If there is a negative situation or relationship in my life, I will attack it ferociously. I wanted to use that word, I didn't use it. And, until that situation is changed, or that relationship is changed, or, I'm distanced from it to where it doesn't affect me, because joy is really important to me. Being happy and being free in my everyday life is super important. And I do think that it's something that needs to be worked on and labored with regards to, in the sense that it becomes a priority and a value in our lives, because it's an important one. I am sure if you haven't heard of Steve Backlund, he is a Christian speaker, and he talks a lot about the power of positivity and declaring truth over one's life, etc. And I remember him, he came recently and he talked about lies that we believe. And one of the lies that he, kind of shared with our group was that the person who, you can't listen to the wisdom of the person who's happy all the time. And I remember feeling so glad that he said that, because I think sometimes because I'm so happy and I'm so, joyous and, always smiling, and I always see the good in things. Sometimes I really believe people, I don't know, I experience it also. People will attempt to, cut me down or not take what I'm saying seriously. They think I've never experienced pain. They don't know what they're going through. It's just like, that's so not true. I believe that any depression, fear, anger, anything that we experience that is not God's will for us is completely done away with, and we don't have to yield ourselves to that, And so we are powerful to create the life that God wants for us to have through, making moral decisions, having, financial stability, creating, producing, exercising our faith consistently, living a joyous life. Yeah, this is all possible for us, and it's important in our everyday lives, in a romantic relationship, in friendships. These are just important characteristics to have. Independence, and yeah. So I think that's everything. Yeah, that's it. Okay, all right, thanks.